Hello and welcome to Small Talk, the show where we try and keep the talk small, but we have big ideas. Sorry for the delay. We had some technical difficulties. Everything was working fine until we all said, "Okay, we're ready," and then everything decided to stop. But we're but we're here. I'm broadcasting live from a TED Talk stadium. I'm about to give a big speech. This is just a warm up for me. But we're joined today by Corwin.
What up, YouTube?
And today's topic is something pretty controversial. I think it's going to get me into some hot water. I'm going to talk about the downsides of big stadium sports. The point of this show is that we want to get better at condensing our arguments and just being able to have strong conversations on uh, anything from pop culture to politics. How you doing, Corwin?
Good. I'm doing fantastic.
Your doors seem to be opening by themselves.
Yeah, it's my little 1-year-old boy who's decided to come say hi.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm on the clock today. And I'll be giving my presentation. This is one of my biggest pet peeves of all time, and it's shocking to me how many people don't know this about big stadium sports. Let me just start the countdown clock as soon as we're ready.
Go for it.
Okay. Now, obviously, there are many benefits to sports, right? It's good for your health. It's good camaraderie. It teaches teamwork and leadership building and stuff. And I don't want to discount any of that. My gripe is with the big companies, the rich people who use their power and influence to exploit the little guys, the taxpayers, which is us. And this happens frequently in big stadium sports. And it's shocking to me that no one knows this. So, the issue specifically that I want to discuss is the cost for building these big stadiums in cities and the cost related to their upkeep and who actually pays for it. These things cost. I think the average cost for a stadium nowadays is like $1 billion. The most expensive one is like 5.5 billion. That's with a B, not an M. There are some that fall under that, but they're in the hundreds of millions or billion mark. Like these things cost a lot of money. It's a big investment, and they're run. Whether we're talking about NFL or even basketball stadiums, or they're run by millionaires and billionaires. These are the richest people. And the richest companies who own everything. And so you would think that they would be able to pay for their own stadiums, but that's not the case. Guess who pays for the stadiums, Corwin?
The taxpayers.
Us.
That's where you're going. Yep.
We pay for 99% of the cost. Why? Because they've convinced cities that building a stadium in your city is a benefit. It will bring in money, and it is 100% a lie. First off, they should be able to afford to build these things themselves, but because they are greedy, they put it on us instead. And they have their reasons, and they're all lies. The four main reasons they give is that it will bring in construction jobs. First off, that's temporary. That's a one-time thing, and it will only bring in construction jobs if they don't outsource the construction, which is almost always what happens. It doesn't bring local jobs to the city. So their first reason is bullcrap. The second reason they always give is that game attendees and stadium employees generate new spending. Stadiums don't run 24/7, so their employees are only part-time. So the only jobs it's creating are part-time jobs for only during the summer, right? And game attendees, while they are spending money and that generates tax income, it's they're also taking their money from somewhere else. Like people who have budgets, if a stadium is built in their city, will often have to choose: am I going to go to the movies or am I going to go to the football game? This is money that was already being spent in the city, and now it's just being reallocated to the stadium. So it's not there. Still no new money. The only thing that does bring it in is their third reason, which is tourism spending. Which that's true. It does bring in tourism, which is new spending. So that's their first reason that actually is true. But tourism comes with problems of its own, like increased traffic, littering, noise, and light pollution from the stadium, and often property damage after every game from visiting teams or even from home teams. Like there's plenty of cities where even if your team wins, you riot in the streets and cause people don't like that. So tourism comes with its own negatives, but it does bring in money. So that's a plus. And the fourth reason that they always give for why building a stadium in your city will bring in new money is called the multiplier effect. As increased local income causes as increased local income causes still more new spending and job creation, which is a fancy way of saying we couldn't think of a fourth reason. And we're just repeating ourselves. It means nothing. A multiplier effect is bullcrap. So they don't actually bring in money. They did a study. I believe this was 2020. That out of the 40. No. This was in 2006. This was a while ago. Out of a $400 million investment, they bring in about $300 million a year in taxes, and again, that's a lot of that is reallocated that they already would have been getting. So and more recent studies have said that the economic benefit is almost always a net negative. So why are we paying for it? Because they also hold cities hostage. With monopoly leagues, they only the big sports teams, they only create a limited number of teams, and that is intentional, so that cities have to bid on teams. Sometimes you've seen teams move from one city to another city, and that's because the other city offered them a bigger stadium from taxpayer money. And so it's very intentional, and there have been several times where teams threatened to leave a city unless they got an upgraded stadium, and all of the money comes from taxpayer dollars. They basically hold cities hostage because losing a team is a huge. It's not a monetary loss, but it is really bad PR, and gaining a team is good PR. So it's just a terrible system. I'm trying to look through all my other notes. We can get to them in the discussion, but all of this is terrible, and that's not even to mention college teams, which on top of all these other negatives make it illegal for their athletes to be paid, and that is even worse. That's the majority of my presentation.
I think so. To go off that, I think it just stems from, and I agree with you in a lot of this, I think it just stems from we have put so much emphasis in big stadium sports that it has taken over everything. Mm-hmm. And this goes from a high school level clear up to like an NFL level. But so just to kind of preempt some of your things I was looking at.
There are benefits to sports.
Oh, there are. There are 100% benefits to sports. So I'm not downplaying that, and I know you're not. But for example, like you were talking about the stadiums. So the two newest stadiums that were built, the newest NFL stadium they have right now was it's in Las Vegas, and it was for the Raiders' new home. Because remember, it was the Raiders, like you were talking about, left.
They moved to city.
Yeah, they moved from California.
They tried to extort California, and California said, "I'm sorry, we can't afford it," and They got a new city to pay the new bill.
They moved to Vegas, and they built the Allegiant Stadium. Vegas built the Allegiant Stadium. A whole bunch of tax money went into it. It cost a grand total of $1.9 billion.
That's insane.
Build.
They didn't pay a single cent.
No. The city paid.
We did. Well, not us personally, but taxpayer money.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the city paid for it. And then the year before that, actually, was the SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. So it's there in kind of the LA area. And that's the stadium that's home of the LA Rams, the LA Chargers. There's two teams out in Los Angeles, go figure. But that stadium, you're ready to get your socks knocked off. How much do you think that stadium cost?
Which one? Sorry.
It's the SoFi Stadium for the Los Angeles Chargers and Los Angeles Rams.
That's the $5 billion one, right?
$6 billion.
I didn't even see that one in my notes. I must have old notes.
SoFi Stadium, and this is just Wikipedia, estimated including development, and this is what I love about it. It says estimated as $5 to $6 billion. $5 to $6 billion. Like, I love how it's estimated to be $5 billion or $6 billion. $1 billion is a lot of freaking money.
Yeah,
like, that's a lot of money. But if you average, so I just kind of was doing some math for kicks and giggles.
Really quickly, out of all the NFL teams, there are two teams that paid for their own stadiums: the New York Jets and the New York Giants. Every other stadium was built with tax money.
Yep. Yes. And the reason why they can't is because let's say the average NFL ticket. The average NFL ticket is about $200, $250. And of course, people are going to say, "Well, there's thousands of dollar tickets." Yeah, but there's also $75 tickets.
Yeah. So you average.
So I just kind of Googled it, and the average ticket is anywhere from $160 to $300. So let's just average that out at $240. Right. Let's say SoFi Stadium, with their capacity of 70,000, expandable up to 100,000 for major events. But they're not filling that stadium every time a football game comes.
Yeah. No.
So let's say they fill it up to 75% capacity, 50,000 people.
Right off the bat, half of that money goes to the other team.
Right. So you've got 12.
So it's not staying local.
Dollars for the tickets, right? That goes into it. So if that stadium, the SoFi Stadium, cost $6 billion, let's see. I'm just going to do the math real quick. That's 600 million. That's $6 billion. Divide that by 12,500,000. They would need, if they put all the money, which it doesn't, because half that money goes to the other team.
Yes.
But if they, and not to mention, they've got to pay for the staff that does it. They've got to pay
part-time staff that works one night a month.
Right, one night a month, or one night a week, or one night, a couple. And let's say they have. So let's just. They would need a minimum. If they all the money, that they earn from tickets to pay off the stadium, they would need a minimum of 480 events, averaging $12.5 million a piece. 480 events. I mean, you divide that by
to pay for the stadium.
Let's say, and a big stadium only uses what? I mean, it's probably only used 3 times a month, like you were saying. If that
in a season, how many football games do you play? Of like 20?
Hometown, no more than 12.
Okay, but there's 20 games, and so like half of those will be home games, right?
Yeah. So you have 10 games in an NFL season.
A year.
So you're going to need 40 NFL seasons to pay that off.
Yeah. 40 years.
Okay, so let's say you add some events, like, because some of the stadiums are used for concerts and stuff.
But the city doesn't get any of that money.
No, the city doesn't get any of that money. So I mean, you're going to need to pay 480 football games if you put all the money into it, which you can't, because you've got to pay your NFL team, you've got to pay the other NFL team, you've got to pay all the workers. They're lucky if they can put a quarter of that into it. So if I go back to the old one, if I go back to my old math here, let's say they put a quarter of that into it, they're going to need
Mhm.
Just doing.
While you're doing that math, 90% of the income that cities gain from stadium games does not come from ticket sales. It comes from income tax of the coaches and staff. 90%, like that's the only money that this.
You would need 2,400 events if
Yeah.
they put a quarter of the money that they earn from games or from whatever, assuming they sell a 75% capacity
Yes.
for every event, you would need 2,400 events.
And they are putting 0% of that money back into the city.
You divide that by, I mean, realistically, there's probably only 3 events a month for something like that. Realistically, you've got. I mean, let's average it out, because in the summertime you might have 1 or 2 events. Then the NFL, you have a few a month and whatnot. So I'll be generous. Let's say there's an average of 4 events per month that goes to that stadium. That's 600 events. Like that. So divide that by 12. It's going to take 50 years to pay off.
Yes. I think there are only a
and the stadium's
handful
going
of
to be way outdated at 50 years.
there are only a handful of cities that even break even with the investments that they make in stadium sports. Almost all of them are just bleeding money, because you also have upkeep, and the cities pay for all of that too. I mean, sorry, we pay for all of that too.
I think it's also important because we have put so much emphasis on big stadium sports that it also, let's just take this from a high school level. So I graduated high school in Pennsylvania, and the part of Pennsylvania I was in, we don't need to get into it. I don't need to offend people, but I found that a lot of people, like, high school graduation was this huge event, because a lot of kids from my high school never went on to college. The vast majority of them never went to college. And so high school graduation is a very big event. And I know this is the case for a lot of other places around the nation. It's a big thing. And so a lot of people were like, well, my ticket to success, or my ticket to college, is a football scholarship, a basketball scholarship. Field hockey was really big for girls sports where I was at. And it overtook, I saw coaches, because I played football. And then I ended up quitting. I just didn't want to deal with the politics and the crap stuff. I saw coaches pass kids, like go up to teachers and ask teachers to pass kids that were failing classes.
Yes.
Because they needed them to throw a pigskin. They needed them to dunk a ball. They needed them at the sporting event. And their thing was, well, he's stupid. I mean, they were more polite than this, but essentially it was, he's stupid. He's not going to get in.
This is the only future he's got.
On scale, on his scholarship, on his academic.
Severe brain damage is the only thing that he could have in his future.
Just a local college or a local university to get into college or higher education, and it was very disappointing. And then you get to college, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Some of these universities put more money into their football program.
College makes me even more upset, because sports are the reason why tuition is so high in a lot of schools, and half of the it's insane. Half of the sports don't make money, and they're subsidized by the football program. But they wouldn't need to if you didn't have to pay so much for coaches. The whole thing, it's literally racketeering.
Yes,
they're just ripping people off. So they're taking your tuition money, and they're putting all of the money, they're putting it all into the football stuff, and then they have the audacity to ask for donations as well. Like, oh, come, be in a big box, and you'll be part of the sport. But the college, some colleges don't even make money off their football programs. Brigham Young University is one of the few colleges that does make money off of their football programs, because they have an audience nationwide who will show up to events, not just in one city, because of the Mormons, But there are very few other colleges that actually make money off of their stadium sports, but their coaches are getting paid six-figure salary, like
6 to
huge,
7 figure
huge
salaries,
money.
yes.
Like six. It's not just like $100,000. It's like $600,000.
Yeah, it's the high six figures.
It's the high six figures.
Yeah.
It's insane to me. And on top of that, it's illegal for them to pay their players. So their players are going to school, but they're getting easy A's, and they're missing half of their classes to go to practices, and they can't make money off of it. There was that huge scandal a couple years ago where a couple players got like fired or kicked off the team because they received some merchandise from like Nike. Like Nike gave them a free thing and they said, nope, that's endorsement. You're out. You're off the team.
Yeah, there was
that is insane.
I can't remember. I can't remember what.
These people, they do not care about the players.
It was a quarterback. It was a quarterback that went to like a tire shop.
Yeah.
This is a couple years ago. I can't remember. I want to say it was
like Florida. And took a picture. It was literally a picture.
Well, they did an event with him. They said, "Hey, why don't you come to our tire shop and sign?" Because I think it was the University of Florida. It might have been the Gators.
It wasn't just one thing. It happened a couple times.
Yeah, but he went to these places for celebrity appearances because people loved what he did, and he was a good, he was a good quarterback. And college football back in some of these states, especially Florida, is huge. And so he went in to make a name. Like, yeah, I went in. He got paid to go there.
Yeah.
And the university ended up, I remember that. The university ended up suing him. He's making a name off of us. And he was like, no. The university's making a name off of me. I'm the player. I'm the one in that. I don't know.
Evil.
I think evil. We've put too much emphasis on sports and not enough emphasis on academia and schools. And it has shown to the national level. Now, don't get me wrong. Football is a fantastic pastime. Uh-huh. I watch football games. Me and you have watched the Super Bowl many a times together.
But it's not even a secret that these big stadiums don't make money, though. We've known this for years. Take the Olympics, for example.
That was what I was going to bring up next.
The cities that have hosted Olympics have bankrupted themselves building these stadiums that after the event just go into disrepair. And the only time that someone ever made money from the Olympics was when it was hosted in Salt Lake City, because they thought about it and did it smart.
Yeah. And not only that, but if you go and look at some of these, and I'm a big advocate when it comes to the Olympics, especially this past few, where they're like, we need to give the Olympics to a country, a developing country.
It would destroy them economically.
Well, economically, like, sure, you pump billions of dollars. Like, look at the Sochi Winter Olympics.
Yeah.
Look at some of the Chinese Olympics. Look at the past 5 or 6 Olympics.
The most egregious one,
or even World Cups. Go look at the World Cup. Let's talk bigger. They go to the World Cup.
Most egregious, really quickly though, the most egregious one was Brazil.
Yes,
Brazil bankrupted the city. It was awful.
So where did that billions of dollars go? They gave them something like $1 billion to build hotels, to build event centers, and the event centers weren't done. They weren't completed. They had like 5 or 6 years to build it. Nothing was completed. They were like, oh, we're out of cash. Well, where did that cash go? It went into the pockets of politicians. It went into the pockets of people like all those money. They got filthy rich. And then
it's always been a shell game.
Have you seen the stadium, for example, South Africa? When the World Cup was held in South Africa in 2010?
I don't remember that. I don't follow football.
No, we were in Mexico at the time. Maybe you weren't.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I remember what you're talking about.
Yeah, go look at the South African stadiums they built for World Cup.
I remember they were giving out like trading cards and all of the cookies.
Yeah. You go to the stadiums, they are destroyed.
Yeah,
they're destroyed. Go to Sochi and look at the Sochi Winter Olympics in Russia. Absolutely destroyed. Go look at Brazil, the Brazilian Olympics, and look at all the stadiums they built in Brazil. Destroyed, gone, not taken care of. And that's something I want to emphasize, at least here in Utah. We still use some of the stuff that was built.
And they might bring it back to Salt Lake soon.
Because Salt Lake, we've kept it up. The Utah State has kept it up. I live, no joke, 500 feet that way is one of the stadiums they built for the ice skating rinks.
Yeah.
It's more than 500 feet, but I can hit a golf ball there maybe twice if I whack those. But it's right there. I mean, you've been to my place. It's right there.
Yeah.
It's still being used today. It's still in good repair. They just renovated it like this year. It's still
I've skated there.
What?
I've skated there.
Yeah, so have I. And so they've used it. They've kept it up, and that's why when Salt Lake is like, yeah, let us host the Winter Olympics again. It's because wait, you don't have to put billions of dollars into our infrastructure because we've already created the infrastructure. And I think that is one of the big things with big stadium sports. We shouldn't be spending a ton of taxpayer money.
We shouldn't be spending any taxpayer money on it because nothing goes back to the taxpayers.
Correct.
There is absolutely no reason why these billionaire teams can't pay for a $1 billion stadium themselves.
Yes, I agree.
Because they're getting 100% of the profits.
They should finance it. Yes, we have to finance it. Great, finance it. Finance it.
Crowdfund it if they want to.
Yeah. Crowdfunding, financing, whatever you got to. But yeah, I agree with you. I think we really need to. But again, you're just talking government. Government's just going to spend. And look at it right now. We've got inflation out the wazoo, and more spending.
That's not even we haven't even talked about all the brain injuries that they get in football because they give two craps about their athletes. Yeah.
Nope, they're a number. They're a money. I don't agree with.
Once they've used up their athletes, they literally can't do anything else with their lives.
I don't agree with Colin Kaepernick on almost anything. 99.9% of the crap that comes out of that man's mouth.
Yeah.
But he did come out one time and say, "This is just a gladiatorial arena. It's just gladiators, modern day gladiators, and we're just beating the crap out of each other for people's enjoyment of money."
When he compared drafting to slave
auctions.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, because those slaves had $1 million salaries. Yeah. You've had it real rough, Colin.
Yeah, the only thing he's ever said was the gladiator thing that I agree with. We're just beating the crap out of each other for money. Yep,
no, they do. Yeah, they do. They spend these athletes' bodies, and when they're done, they toss them out.
Yeah.
Occasionally, you get real lucky, and you become a really good quarterback, and you can play for years because you don't get tackled a lot.
But yeah, look at the trenches. Look at your linemen.
And that's happened like once with Tom Brady. It's a miracle Tom Brady's still playing.
Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. There's been a few of them.
Oh yeah, Peyton Manning's good.
Look at the most part.
But Peyton Manning had a really good defensive team that kept people from sacking him.
But look at them; they sacrificed their bodies.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the trenches. Your trench guys, they're beat up pretty darn good. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that for the most part. I think it's kind of despicable how they use taxpayer and they have this.
Well, they just lie. They lie about everything, though.
You're not going to make money off of it, and you're right. The construction only provides part-time employment. And most of the time, it's out. You might use 4,000 people on construction for the 4 years it's under construction, and then it's over with, and then it's done.
And half the time, that is outsourced.
And usually it is. Yeah, a great example would be the temple that was built here in the city next to where we live. There was a ton of construction people, and I remember there was a taco stand. A temple, for those of you who don't know, is LDS culture. It's a large meeting house for LDS. There was a place called Brasas, and it was a Mexican taco stand.
Yeah.
And it was right behind the temple. It was literally right across. And that place was packed. I mean, packed 24/7. And it's a really good. It's a big restaurant.
And they expanded to a new location.
And the location shut down.
Right after construction stopped.
Right after construction. They went to a new location. They kept that satellite location. But then they went to a new location.
Their original location was literally a taco stand.
It was.
It was a tent.
It was a tent.
Then they moved into a real building.
It lasted for about a year and a half. And then construction went, and they lost the money. The construction workers.
I think they lost their satellite location too. I haven't been there to check it to see if it's still there. I think they went under.
Do you know where the Neaters is?
There's so many of those.
It's next to the hospital.
That's like saying, you know where the McDonald's is? Like,
No,
which
you know what
one,
McDonald's
dude?
is.
Like,
It's next to the hospital. It's that strip mall that's
yeah,
just east of the
So,
hospital.
so they had to move their original location too.
Yeah, so they have a smaller little restaurant. It's like a Don Joaquin Tacos or like a Rancheritos Tacos. But I mean, the construction just dried up. And where did the construction workers go? They had to move in the next project.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I agree with that. I think it's part-time employment. Cities never break even for this.
They almost always hemorrhage.
They almost always hemorrhage. And they lie about how.
And then on top of that, after that huge investment, every year you have your team saying, "Hey, we're going to move to a different city if you don't give us more money."
Yep, every year. And just go to college. So, for example, let's just even go to college sports. I remember reading an article. It was like last year, but they were talking about it was during this. Should we pay collegiate athletes? And they talked about the College of Notre Dame. Notre Dame has a $50 billion, according to this article, it was a $50 billion slush fund. I can't remember what the technical term is, but it's there. It's the money that's in reserve just for the university. They have a $50 billion fund for the university, and yet they have the audacity to say we don't have the money to pay for our stadium upgrades, and we don't have the money to pay for our stuff upgrades, and they want taxpayers to come in and fit the bill.
Oh, bull crap!
And you have $50 billion in your slush fund. Like, yeah.
Yep. It makes me angry.
Yep.
And what's more frustrating is that people don't know it.
Yes. Yeah,
it's always of course it brings in stimulus.
Yeah, it's a great and people because it was passed in a city meeting. It was passed in a city meeting, and it was a 2-second thing. And I'm very cynical when it comes to city stuff, just because what I've seen in my job. I'm very cynical just because what I've seen in politics in general. It was passed in a 30-second. This amendment raised tax, yada 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 yada, to create the stadium for the LA or for the Salt Lake or for the Los Angeles or for the New York, yada 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 yada. All in favor? Aye. Okay, boom, done. Like that's how it slid under. And what you don't see is in that contract is the mayor gets. They might not get money, but they get season
kickbacks.
Yeah. They get season tickets for the next 3 years that are worth $50,000, and they have 4 of them. And then
it's a fancy way of saying bribery and extortion.
Yes, and then they turn around and sell those tickets. The city council members, I can't go this week. I can post it online and make $5,000 off of my box seat tickets. Yeah, it is disgusting. It is disgusting, and it needs to stop. But
they're getting away with it. They're stealing money from us, and the lies are so, if you just stop and analyze a single word of what they're saying, like they always give those 4 same reasons. Construction jobs, we've talked about how that's bullcrap. It generates new spending. No, it shifts spending, and the only leg that they have to stand on is tourism, which happens 10 times a year.
Right.
That's not actual tourism. Okay. Hawaii makes money from tourism because you have a constant flow of people. Stadiums have 10 times a year at most a couple, and if you've ever been to a game, the visitors section is tiny because people don't travel to see sports. You got the home team, and then you got the visitor section. That is the tourism, and that is literally their only pillar of actual generated income, and it's the smallest one because the multiplier effect is just bullcrap. I think I said it wrong last time, but here I want to read it verbatim. Here's what they say. All this new spending has a multiplier effect, as increased local income causes still more new spending and job creation. That's literally just repeating the things you've already said.
Yep.
What does that mean?
Yeah. Same thing goes with basketball. Same thing goes with soccer or around the world known as football.
And they always use the line. They'll say, "Oh, these stadiums are self-financing." They use that word all the time. If you build it, they will come. Yeah, but you won't get it. Yeah, they'll come, and we won't give any of the money to you.
Right. We won't pay it back. It'll take us 50, 60 years to pay it back, but by that time, we've already wrecked the stadium and built a new one. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I agree with you.
It's evil, in my opinion. It's extortion. They're exploiting young people, and they're using the government to steal our money.
Say, hi.
They're stealing your money, kiddo.
Yeah, that's the problem. They're stealing.
The government's coming from your money.
I'm sorry, buddy. Anyway, well, what are we doing for next week?
Well, yeah, that's about it. Next week you talked about video games and graphics. I have two more new topics. I still want to talk about homophobia, bigotry, and Christianity. But I also want to talk about student loans because Biden announced he's going to forgive $10,000 of student loans. I want to talk about student loans. It's upsetting to me because I worked for a really long time to pay for my college, and now I get to pay for yours too. I don't think so, buddy.
Yeah, I did too. Let's do student loans. Let's do student loans.
How about you present? I presented the last three, so it's your turn to give a presentation.
I'll present it.
Okay.
I'll present
it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll present it. So next week, same time as always, I will.
Student loan forgiveness, baby.
Oh, we might have to up the 7 minutes to like 8 or 9.
Okay, this might be a long talk.
Yeah, it might be a little bit longer.
Big talk, dumb ideas. How about that? Yeah. Because forgiving student loans is a dumb idea.
It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Okay, I will prep next week. I have it next week, YouTube. I've got a presentation. I will start my prep. It'll be a nice little PowerPoint. I might even do a movie.
Ooh. I have a clip that I would like to share after your presentation. Sounds that pisses me off.
We'll do it. We both present. How about that? We both present.
Yeah, I want to listen to your presentation, but I will join the conversation. So we'll see you next week where we talk about student loan forgiveness. And Sunday, we're having a Tolkien celebration where we celebrate the Lord of the Rings before Amazon perverts it with the Rings of Power. So we'll see you then. I said I was going to live stream me binge watching the extended edition trilogy. But this week has been crazy. I have in-laws in town. We just had a baby and our car broke down. So I'm trying to fix that first, and I don't think I'm going to be able to live tweet. I don't even think I'm going to be able to rewatch them before our stream on Sunday, but I will make sure that I rewatch them next week sometime when I have time to breathe. So we'll see you then. Thanks for joining us, Corwin. It's been a blast. I'm looking forward to Thursday.
Fun.
But we'll see you around, everybody. Thanks for joining our small talk with your big idea brains, and that's the tagline. Bye.
See ya.